Thank you, Chair. I believe the proposal to introduce an EU social security card is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to introduce a European-wide citizen ID card system using a backdoor, while at the same time further disenfranchising democratically elected national governments with the aim of centralising more power in Brussels. When the Labour government announced their plans to introduce an ID card in the UK, it caused a national outcry, and for a very good reason. The citizens of the UK are concerned about many aspects of this scheme, such as how the vast amount of information collected for the cards will be stored, and how that information will then subsequently be used. Any information relating to these cards will need to be constantly updated to make them effective. And once the system has been established, how much more information will citizens be required to give in the future? Any programme of this type has massive human rights implications, especially when the need for security will require citizens to provide biometric data as a matter of course. Then there is the cost of such a programme. 5 years ago, when the UK ID card programme was cancelled, the project was estimated to, over a period of 10 years, was estimated it would cost about 800 million in order to cover 65 million people. When this figure is extrapolated across 500 million people, we will be looking at over 6 billion. Therefore, any inflationary rise are taken into account and newer security threats are dealt with. However, it is the collection of the citizens' tax details that is, for me, the most worrying part. It would simply be impossible to run a scheme of this type without a centralised tax and social security policy throughout the EU. I think this scheme is nothing more than further steps towards Mr Juncker's dream of a super-European super-state slipped through in a flurry of policies aimed at masking the EU's true intent from the electorate. Thank you, Chair. Undeclared work and bogus work claims not only cause huge losses to the UK exchequer in the form of loss of taxation and benefit fraud, but have also been shown to lead to the exploitation of people by unscrupulous businesses and criminals. For all these reasons, UKIP totally agrees that legislation must be put in place to tackle these problems and to make sure that people who defraud and abuse the UK tax and benefit system are brought to justice. However, this legislation should be put in place by our democratically elected and therefore publicly accountable politicians on a national level, not the undemocratic EU level. In the main, these problems are caused by the EU's ridiculous open-door policies in the first place, and this proposed legislation does nothing more than highlight how unworkable this policy truly is in practice. If 500 million people didn't have the right to live, work and claim benefits in the UK, and if we controlled our own borders with sensible point-based work permit systems, then we could actually start to tackle bogus and undeclared work through our own parliamentary process, in a controlled way without further EU meddling in our domestic law. I believe this proposed legislation to be nothing more than the start of yet another EU power grab, this time on the rights of nation-states to make their own employment and taxation laws, together with the enforcement of said laws. UKIP are determined to stop any further backdoor integration of this type, and without the British electorate even realising it's actually happening. I also utterly object to the EU spending €2.1 million of the taxpayers' money on another EU talking shop where delegates can wine and dine themselves at our expense. Are you also out of touch that you haven't noticed the economic situation in many European countries? or that voters across the EU want less spending, less interference in their domestic laws. UKIP will be voting against this proposal and urge everyone else to do the same.
As regards the budget assigned to this platform, this is a guideline figure, and it's an average figure across a number of years. The Commission estimates that €2.5 million per year to organise training, to support a number of operational cooperation programmes, to ensure that colleagues from national authorities can get together to establish common principles, is very much in proportion. It's nothing compared to the huge financial impact on member states of this problem that we're trying to address. Thank you.